Kara Kirshner. I live here in Bloomington. I create needle-felted art dolls and sculptural animals. I really appreciate that needle felting is a forgiving process. Say if I make something too large, I can take my needle and needle it down to size, or I can pull fibers, manipulate with my hands, keep adding to it. I can, if I get an eye misplaced or too large, or I just don't like it, I can take my tweezers and pull it out and redo. I know with a lot of other mediums that's not possible, so that's something I really appreciate about needle felting. And to achieve the different looks to the animals and to the pumpkins here, I've used horsehair for the whiskers. It gives it a nice natural look, better than using some sort of plastic for it. These are horsehair whiskers also in the hair. And for the hair on the doll, I've used a merino roving. Roving is a form of wool. Comb top or roving is a form of wool that's been combed, and the fibers are long and they're all going the same direction. So it's what a spinner would use to spin yarn. I use that for hair. And for these guys, I've got dyed locks. These are dyed wool locks. These are mohair locks to achieve different looks that I can't achieve with the wool batting itself. I would say my selection process for my animals is any sort of animal that I see a lot of character in, like the hare's large eyes, the fox's keen face, that expression, the coloring of some animals. I chose the American flamingo because of the bright, bold coloring of it. I needed a little color. I tend to have a lot of browns going on in my pieces. So once I've selected the animal, I do some research on the internet. I look up skeletal photos, and I build my wire armature based on the photos. I use several different reference photos and build the correctly proportioned armature. And then once that's done, I start laying on the wool, and I take the core wool. This is undyed, processed batting. It has a gentle pull to it. The fibers are going different directions, they're short. So once I have my armature built, say under here, this guy's got wire underneath, I wrap the wire armature in core wool, and I keep building and building. I wrap and I felt it on, and I wrap and I add, the muscle, the meat and the muscle of the animal. And I'm sculpting all the time with my felting needle. It has tiny barbs in the needle, and that makes the fibers entangle and form into a solid. So I'm sculpting the whole time. Once I put the wool on, that's when the sculpting process begins to create the animal. And then once I have the core wool on, I add dyed wool. So this is an example of a core wool stage. I've built the basic shape of this hummingbird. This hummingbird needs a little bit more on the belly here. And then I would add the dyed wool, and it's basically the painting stage, but there's no painting involved. It's all wool. So that's basically that.
My name is CJ Niehaus, and I'm a ceramic artist. I've been working in clay for almost 30 years. Started out in college in my bachelor's program. I was going to be an art therapist. And I love the idea of how art can speak volumes without saying words. And I was in my program, and it was the very last class I had to take. I'd already taken my sculpture and my drawing and painting and all of this. And I was told, you must take clay class as part of the program. You have to take it. And I was like, I don't really want to make dishes. That's not really art. And I took that class, and I was hooked. And then I graduated, and so then I went back and I took more classes after I graduated. Clay spoke to me in a way that nothing else did. And I could understand why it was important in the program that I was in, but then actually becoming part of the clay world became more exciting to me, and I felt like I could do more actually working in the material. So I've been making vessels for almost 30 years now. Went back as a non-traditional student at the age of 45 and got my master's down at Southern Illinois. And that changed the way that I looked at my work and has changed my work immensely from that point on. Well, I would like people to take some time looking at the images and really look into them a little deeply and find what works for me, what means something to them in the different pieces that I've got. I don't want to lecture on morality. I think most of it is universal enough that people will see something and they'll have their own story as part of it. The bees being a universal benefit to everybody that's on the planet, and of course the messages that we've been getting about bee and the beehive syndrome and all of those kind of things. It's not that I want to lecture on that. It's more of that relationship where we are all connected. Everything that we do affects every other living thing, and what they do affects us, and so that relationship is really what I'm more interested in. And if I can find images where people can connect and key into it, maybe they can build that relationship themselves without me having to bash anybody over the head.
Okay, my name is Carlene Dingman Atwater. I'm a painter from Fort Madison, Iowa, and I love to paint. I originally started out painting animals, mainly watercolor for 15 years, and then started doing pastels because I love the vibrancy and richness of the colors, and did a little bit of acrylics. I'm doing oil now because I love the ability to manipulate the paint a little more than I did with the acrylics. Depend on photographs for most of my animal paintings. I have several rabbits. The rabbits are usually, I chase them around the yard, and I get the hind end of the rabbits in my paintings because I had a gardener come to my booth at an art fair and says that's the way they like to see them, running away. And cows look at you a lot, and you'll see a lot of that on the cows. And I love to paint animals because they are, that you feel that freedom and grace with a horse. It's action. Even though I just do a static 2D not moving painting, I want action in there. You want to capture the balance. A horse, if you don't do it right, you don't want a horse that looks like it's ready to fall over. It's balanced and free-flowing and nice organic shapes, round and curves and stuff like that, that you can see that there aren't animals, people too, anything like that. It's just really, really fun to paint shapes like that.